Thanks so much for joining us again at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford. Come right back at you here. Appreciate it. It is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It is 2023. And after a kind of all over the place 2021 and 2022, we now come to some major things happening in 2023 when it comes to the future and direction for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A lot of introductions have been made over the past couple of years. Not everybody's been on board with it. I know that my guest and I have been all over the place on the shows and the movies that have been represented over the past couple of years and our thoughts on exactly what direction is coming out of it. But we always have faith in that Kevin Feige has a plan and that it's being drawn up and it's always there. The blackboard is still straight. It's not like DC with James Gunn. It's all over the place and all that, still trying to figure out what's going on there. With MCU, it's always something that even though we like it or we don't like it, we always know there's a plan in place. And we know that's going to come a little bit better into shape this year in 2023 with some of the stuff that's coming out, including, of course, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, and more. And here today to discuss, or maybe have some predictions, per se, even better, of what can take place in the MCU this year. Is a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at the MCU's Bleeding Edge, all over social media, especially on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe today. The MCU's Bleeding Edge. It is Jeff Sloboda, Mr. True Knowledge. Great to have you back, my friend. Happy New Year. You asked me in December when you could come back, and I told you because of traveling and schedules, we put a lot of best ofs out there. We recorded a lot of stuff in advance. I already had things straightened out, but I told you mid-January you're coming back on, my friend. So I hit you up today. I said, dude, can you come on and talk about your thoughts and some predictions on what's going on for this year in the MCU? Because this is a very pivotal year, in my opinion, because we all know phase 6, phase 5, it's all here. It's all going to start now. Phase 6 is when all the big stuff is coming down with Kang's Dynasty and Secret Wars and all that good stuff. You know, when really is going to hit, everything's going to hit the fan, per se. I can't say what's going to hit the fan, but, you get the idea. But your thoughts, my friend, on 2023, because I think this is a pivotal year when people should start getting back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because as we know, a lot of people have gotten off that train. I think this is the year when people need to start getting back in.
Hey, I mean, perfect timing for there to be this break. Really,
Yeah.
really. I mean, for the things have worked out really well because to reinforce, and I want to thank you, Gerald, right off the bat, for the opportunity to be on here and everything. And I want to say out there that everybody should, support the Pop Culture Cosmos, support Gerald, and his team and everybody that's involved because he, listen. The real inside joke is that True Knowledge is just a joke. Gerald's more professional than I am times 17,000. So
Thank you.
if anybody should have a True Knowledge next to his name, it should be him, not me. Mine's just a joke.
I'm just gonna say, to be honest with you, that sets you up for disaster. If I called myself True Knowledge Gerald Glassford, that would set me up for a lot of teasing and razzing, especially on the Lakers fast break. My co-host Joe Soro would go ahead and go to town on that every single time. So
well,
I'm going to try and dance around the tulips on that one, my friend.
Gerald will tell you, I can make a joke out of everything. My favorite target for humor is myself. It always is. I love to beat myself up.
So I want to ask you, my friend. I mean, you and I was on your show, and you've been on my show several times now in the past 2 years, and we've talked about the highs and lows of phase 4. A lot of introductions, a lot of shows that may not have presented the MCU in the best light. Something that you can say the show, whether it's Miss Marvel, whether it's Moon Knight, whether it's any of the shows that have been, the Eternals, they've had their hits and their misses. All have made okay money outside of maybe Black Widow. I think Black Widow was hampered by the environment.
Miss Marvel made what, $300 million?
Yeah, that is
just for Disney Plus alone.
That's probably the biggest disappointment financially for them out of any of these. But be that as it may, as far as the introductions and things of that nature, a lot of people have gotten off the Marvel Cinematic Universe train because they've just whether it's burnout or whether it's just been really hard to follow, or whether the quality of some of the stuff has not been there. I know you've liked a lot of shows that I have not liked as much, and vice versa. But heading into 2023, I am really, really satisfied with what's going on because we're seeing a lot of familiar faces from the past coming back on to what we're seeing in the MCU this year. It's not a lot of fresh faces that people are unfamiliar with. It's more like, hey, the old crew is coming back together one last time.
Yeah, I think that this is a really interesting place. Like I was saying, I mean, the timing right now for there to be a break, it couldn't be more perfect, right? As far as those that are kind of like maybe on the fringe of the fandom and need something to kind of give them some hope. This is a little nice break to give them a chance to breathe and just chill out, no more Marvel for a while, and then we'll roll into Ant-Man 3 Quantumania, which I think will deliver. Maybe not to the box office level that maybe Disney would like to see, although I don't know what their expectations really are, considering the first two films didn't make that much money in the box office
Well,
anyway.
I've spoke to you about this before when it comes to Ant-Man. Ant-Man is more like a Marvel thing, where it's a
Yes.
favorite among Marvel inside as far as
Yes.
what their plans are. It didn't matter to them as much how much money it's made. They love the story of Ant-Man, the quantum technology, the quantum realm, that whole universe of Ant-Man. They've wanted to always tell this story in multiple episodes, no matter how poor or no matter how well it did. I think this will do the best out of all three Ant-Mans, but that's not a high bar financially. So I think it will do better than the other two, just because simply the fact that it only needs to get anywhere near Wakanda Forever, and I think it'll be a huge commercial success for Marvel if that's the case. I think it's just more been a labor of love for Marvel because Ant-Man to them I think exemplifies, with all the Captain Marvels and the Spider-Mans and the Iron Mans that are just so big and huge. The Ant-Man is something that they love and that's more personal to them.
Well, it's also a situation where because of the fact that the original six is basically like on its last legs,
Yeah.
what we have left for the connective tissue to our original MCU characters, right, from
Yeah.
phases 1 through 3. So there's always going to be that attachment to the fan with the fans, no matter what. That'll never go away. If you love them, people may have turned away from the MCU fandom possibly, but they'll never forget their relationships with those characters, and they'll love those films. Yeah. So at that point, for me, for me, it's a labor of love because I just find the fact that it's going to end up being a trilogy of films where it's going to end up being all consistently well done. I think, right? I don't think there'd be a fourth installment, and I do think that overall, I love the fact that you had two like sort of almost if you want to say cult classic Marvel films, you know what I mean? And then you had now here we are. They were kind of comedic and spoofy in a way, and kind of like not so serious. And here we are now. We're going to launch into the third episode of installment of the trilogy, and they're going to really take it to a new level and actually drop our big bad villain into the film.
With trailers, especially the Marvel trailers, even though they based off of a recent court ruling on another film trailer that they cannot be as misleading or they're a little bit more guarded. It seems like on the surface that there's going to be a climactic battle between Kang and Ant-Man, with the Ant-Man, at least on the surface, losing out because he even says, I'm not here to win. I'm just here to take you out and lose at the same time. We're both going to lose together. I really think when it comes down to it, I think a major thing is going to happen as far as the Kang universe going forward that we're going to see in this and also Loki season 2, where Kang becomes a major integral part of the universe and people will have to start as you're showing me the notes there. Kang is going to be such an integral part of the story going forward because he is the new Thanos. He is someone that's supposed to make you believe he's stronger than Thanos because of the way he can control time and space. So your thoughts on how Kang is going to be developed this year in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Not 24, 25, because we all know how that's going to end up, especially if you have a movie named after you. I'm talking about this year. How is the Kang character going to be developed in stories, mainly in Loki and Ant-Man Quantumania?
This is where this is where the vision of Disney Plus, from a creative standpoint, not from a financial standpoint, it can become a positive. and can become not a non-impediment, not be an impediment with the fandom in any way. Where there's not any situation where I'm in the studio before shows and I've got guests telling me that they feel like there's no connective tissue in the Disney Plus series. You know what I mean? Like we were used to in the first 3 phases of the MCU, and they missed that. They feel an attachment with some of this stuff. Pardon me. And basically, overall, I feel like they're going to use Disney Plus. They're going to use a different type of different way of handling Kang. He's a different kind of character, different villain than Thanos. He's not as overt and direct. He's not as he doesn't want to his goals don't reflect in any way Thanos' goals. They're completely opposite to each other. His desires and what he wants to gain out of what he wants to do as a villain, totally different than Thanos, right? And as far as him being more powerful, now I think that's you could use that term, but in a different way. Because you got to remember, and I'm sure people have noticed in the trailers already, or anybody who knows from the comics, Kang's doesn't going to use the Infinity Gauntlet, right? There's not going to be anything like that. And on his own, Kang as an individual, without his technology and whatnot, he doesn't have any superpowers really. It's his ability to manipulate time, right? That's what makes him interesting, and the fact that there's so many different versions of him that do have certain powers or have abilities that other Kangs. So, that's the thing. You don't know what the hell you're going to get with each Kang variant. Like, we don't know in Loki season 2 which Kang is that going to be.
Yeah.
Like, which variant version is that going to be that's going to be in Loki season 2. We know we're going to get them probably, but I see probably Loki season 2 as being the vehicle that's going to establish, just as Loki season 1 sort of was like a stepping stone into kind of explaining to people that the time variance authority was introduced for a very good reason, to help explain to people how these different dimensions work, how the multiverse works, how time works to some extent. So we could then go into this sort of realm of the multiverse. Now, what we're going to get with Loki season 2 is going to be time travel, right? How does Kang operate? They're going to tie it in, right? And I'm really looking forward to it. I'll be honest with you. We're going to end up dedicating an entire 3-hour probably show just on previewing Loki season 2. And honestly, overall, I think it's going to be very inventive. I'm really optimistic. I really am that they're going to do a really great job. They've got, I think, they've got 8 productions coming out that I know of this year. We're going to have one less than this year, than 2022 and 2021, where we had 9. If you count in Venom and you count in Morbius, we're going to get 8 this year, I believe. That's a good number. I like that number. I think that's a fair number. It might even be 7. I'm not sure. But either way, I like them going a little bit lower and maybe going down a little bit. I think the movies we're going to get are going to be great. All of them are going to be solid films. I really do. I'm very optimistic. And I think that Kang, with Jonathan Majors playing the character, I don't really see how it can't go wrong. They can't go wrong with that. I really don't. I think that was a great casting decision, a great choice.
He has been tremendous so far. I've seen him in other works and just been outstanding. I'm truly impressed by his ability and what he brings to the character. I really was kind of worried that can you create a character that's as menacing as Thanos was, without a whole ton of CGI or anything of that nature? And it's apparently that Jonathan Majors as Kang, whatever variant you want to say, it's such a complex role because you're playing, like you said, different variations of one particular character. It is truly, from what I've seen, been outstanding so far. From what I've seen from Jonathan Majors, the way he's played off of himself in different formats. So I'm really impressed by what I see.
Gerald, think Moon Knight. So think Moon Knight, right? Think Moon Knight, and think of the. I'm just saying as a sort of a comparison.
Do I have to think of Moon Knight? I'm not a big fan.
Oh, come on, me neither, man. But you know what I'm saying though, in terms of the fact that hey, I didn't. You already know how I felt about Moon Knight, but at the end of the day, though, I also respected the performance that.
His performance is outstanding. What he was given, and the fact that right now it just still feels like it's not connected to the MCU. That's my part on Moon Knight, where I say, because if I watched it right now, it would seem to me like a totally separate series. If it didn't say Marvel in front of it, I wouldn't even know it existed in the MCU.
Hey, look, you can't
There's no
blame
connection. There's no
you can't
connection to anything.
you can't blame the actors or the actresses when
No, and like I
you
said, it's
know
not. It's certainly not because of acting. It's because of what was given to these actors to go ahead and perform with. So that's why I didn't like it.
yeah.
But
I mean, if anything, I feel bad for Oscar Isaac because I thought he acted his ass off. But I mean, honestly, I think when it boils down to it, people, Sarah Finn is like the nobody the name that nobody ever brings up and nobody mentions and whatnot. But she's so pivotal, right? In what Marvel's been doing. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know Feige and his inner circle also have a hand in casting and whatnot too. And she's just not like on her own, just solo, just do whatever she wants to do. But she's been handling the majority of the casting overall
yeah.
for the really all the big films and a lot of the Disney Plus series. I think they're even probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they're even probably on the side getting advice from her on Star Wars casting. Right? It wouldn't surprise me.
So in the MCU this year, you've got a lot of things on tap, like we talked about with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. As far as the films, of course, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. You also have for the TV shows in early spring, something we actually got wrong when you and I were talking earlier today. What if season 2 actually is coming out in early 2023, followed
Oh,
by a Secret Invasion, followed by Loki, followed by Echo, I think, and I think that's what we're seeing right now from them. As far as the TV side of thing, of course, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Sony's got to say their 2 cents. That's something.
yeah.
Obviously, we got to talk about the Marvels in late July. That's going to come out as a big film. That whole Marvels coming together, all the different stories within the Marvel part of it coming together. Ironheart coming out later this year, and these are all
Ah.
scheduled. These are all scheduled. They are subject to change. Sounds like Ironheart is something you don't want to really see.
Gerald,
So
Jared, did you have to go? Did I scare you a little bit earlier when I was a little bit like nervous, saying like trying to say that I could even really officially tell you what the lineup is and what we're going to have this year for the Disney Plus series?
I think in
It's
2023,
fluid.
it is fluid. It's always changing, and I think that if there's any, I think that a lot of the stuff in 2023 is pretty solid. I'm not going to say it's 100%. I think the stuff later in 2023 is still subject to change, but I think on the front side, you talk about halfway through and maybe up to the Marvels in late July. I think you can count on them hitting their release dates. I think at some point in time, you just can't maneuver much of those
Oh,
properties.
the films are locked in.
Yeah, the films are locked in, and I think on the TV shows past Loki, anything is up to challenge, anything is up to debate, anything is up to being moved around still. But I think up to Loki, you're good on a schedule for TV as well.
Well, I think that's for me. We've been doing a Phase 5 and Phase 6 preview every Sunday, right, on the MCU's Bleeding Edge. We're making a series out of it. I started it off and didn't really know how I wanted to approach it. So we did something really interesting. I realized right off the bat, Gerald, I think you probably would have thought of doing something like this too. In the studio, just from the banter between the guests, I could kind of tell when I started the show that we weren't going to be able to get into Phase 5 and Phase 6 unless we flushed out Phase 4. It
Well,
had
then
to be.
also you also have to remember there's Sony again. They could
Yep.
do the way they could bring out Craven the Hunter. There's speculation that they're going to bring it out in October. It's right now on the schedule in
Okay.
October after Ironheart, and then you've got X-Men '97, the animated series. How can they tie that in? Because you know that obviously
Oh,
is
yeah.
going to clue in people on the X-Men coming back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Could they actually tie that in or just keep that separate? And then
Nah.
on the back end, a show that's going to be overlapping at the end of the year is Agathan Coven of Chaos. That's going to be on the schedule right now if it were to hold true the last MCU entity of 2023. So yeah, it's a loaded MCU docket on
It
place.
is.
So I'm hoping that that will be the case and that everything will hold true. Everything will hold true and we won't have any issues on that. Sony and Marvel looks like the way that their release schedules are working out. They're trying to work in conjunction with each other instead of arguing with each other. Echo, like I said, Echo, I think anything from Echo on is still subject to change. Echo is scheduled for a summer release. So anything after that, Echo and moved on, I think is still subject to being shifted around if there's a problem or it doesn't test well or something like that. But for right now, I think 2023 is pretty solid. I think it's going to tell a story more and more about what Kang's influence will be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it's something that is going to have a presence not just in Ant-Man and Loki, but in some of these other properties like Secret Invasion and some others. But I think that's the key. You have to go ahead and start introducing Kang as a bigger threat to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
No, and I think that it's Secret Invasions. I mean, honestly, I like the idea of Secret Invasion leading off. I did for Disney Plus. I did because I think it'll probably end up being the best Disney Plus series we get this year. I do. Will probably be Secret Invasion. Now, I won't lie, folks. I was wrong on She-Hulk 100%. I knew in my gut Miss Marvel was going to be a great show. I did. I won't lie. I'm going to applaud myself. On many shows as a guest,
I'm glad you liked it much more than I did.
I thought Miss Marvel was. Listen, I did not have high expectations for it. So at that point, what they gave me surprised me. And
I thought it was all right, but
well produced.
It didn't move the needle for me.
I just like
a lot of the Phase 4 things did move the needle for me, and I think that coming off of what we came off with Avengers Endgame, that's very human of me to have coming off that big high roller coaster of Infinity War and Endgame. And I'm like a lot of other people in the that follow the MCU or just movie fans or fans in general of pop culture, that you come off that big roller coaster ride and you're hoping for something else that'll kind of satiate you or pacify you until something bigger comes along, and you're looking for something a little bit more action packed, and not always did you get it with the MCU in Phase 4.
Well, I like to be surprised once in a while. I do. And Miss Marvel surprised me. That's all I'm going to say. It's just that I was just surprised at how well done it was and the fact that it was consistent. It didn't have some of the same faults that Moon Knight did, for instance. Now, as far as this year goes, I would probably center in and say that Secret Invasion, I think, will be very well done. I mean, Kevin Feige's made it very clear it's going to be a vehicle for Mendelsohn and for Samuel L. Jackson to carve the path and lead the way. Now, the fact that they decided to go ahead and throw in Daenerys from Game of Thrones in there too, to play Abigail Brand, who is a mutant, folks, right? So we're gonna have. I mean, how they're gonna play that, we'll have to see, right? I mean, Namor dropped. He's a mutant. Miss Marvel supposedly is a mutant, so we'll see how they handle that. I mean, anytime the mutants are involved, I find that interesting. I want to see where they go with that, and I can't believe that they would bring her in like that as a one-off, just in this series, and not have her around.
Yeah, it's very curious that if anything right now is going to be put as a one-off, because you have on the horizon Secret Wars.
There you go.
Needs, and by its very nature, if people have seen the comics or even if you know about it, a lot of characters. You need a lot of characters, period. Coming out of the woodwork, and I don't think there's any permadeaths that are going to be happening.
No.
Okay, Nick Fury dies in Secret Invasion. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No.
Ant-Man dies in Ant-Man and Quantumania. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that, again, you need as many characters for the ultimate ending in Phase 6 when it comes to Secret Wars. Then you will see a lot of your characters really dying off as far as the older ones are concerned. Then all bets are off, in my opinion, there. But up until then, I think this year is about growing the existential threat that's out there in Kang and the Kang Dynasty.
I want to see. I mean, look, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 should be a solid film too, just like Ant-Man Quantumania. I wouldn't say which one I think would be better. But then again, Gunn's directing the third installment of Guardians of the Galaxy. So with Gunn on board on that, I'd probably call Guardians of the Galaxy probably be a little bit better. Maybe it'll do better in the box office. I know that. Again, it's that connective tissue. People love the Guardians. They do. There's nothing tainted with them at all. People love the Guardians. If you like Marvel, the MCU, you like the Guardians. Yep. Those films are pretty cool for everybody. Even the second one, I thought, looking back at it, was better than I thought at first. But overall, I think the Marvels, I'm optimistic. I am. Could be pretty good. I mean, hey, they're giving Brie Larson a lot of heavy hitters to play with. You know what I'm saying? They're going to bring back the whole crew from the first movie. Samuel will be back, right? I mean, we'll have him back. We'll have we'll have Miss Marvel there. We'll have, of course, the wonderful Monica Rambeau. And she, honestly, she's a game changer. I mean, because of her, I created the Monica Rambeau Award because after WandaVision, for the best breakout secondary character in a Disney Plus series. So good luck finding one of those in Moon Knight, of course. But what if season 2 is something I'm really optimistic for, really happy for. Hey, what if season 1 wasn't so bad? Yeah. And X-Men 97, Gerald. Look, for me, it's like fan service. I see connective tissue really heavily to like what they're gonna do with the X-Men in the MCU. I don't see a heavy connection, or I don't see it as being any kind of predictor or like metric or gauge. You know what I'm saying? I see them really kind of just following what they say they're gonna do, just continuing following in the stories where the series picked up, dropped off. Either way, everybody loves the series. Who doesn't like the series?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like fan service. I can't wait to watch it. I've never reviewed an actual animated episode other than What If, so it'll be fun to do. And you're right. When you bring it all together, Gerald, with the Sony stuff and the animated stuff and everything and whatnot, it is actually more like 12 or 13, I think, properties, or 11 or 12, depending on whether. Yeah.
A lot of MCU watching for us, and that's going to be great for your show. But before we head on out, my friends, speaking of the MCU, you got to go ahead and clue in everybody as the man of true knowledge, exactly what you and your great cast is doing at the MCU's bleeding edge.
Well, you know what? We're taking in the fact that we hit 10,000 subscribers.
Congratulations!
After it took us. Thank you very much, Gerald. I really appreciate that. It's very humbling. The first 1,000 was something I never thought was something I'd accomplish, but I knew it was the big hill we had to get over. And hey, I'll tell you what, folks, I didn't get much advice for YouTube, but the little bit I got was once you get over 1,000, things get easier. What that meant, I didn't know, but it turns out it means that after you hit that first 1,000, and it takes you a year plus to do it, all of a sudden your next 9,000 just come in like the next 6 months. So isn't that great? So it's wonderful. Yep. It's great. And honestly, I can't thank anyone really at the end of the day more than my co-host, Cybernetic Shark, and all of our wonderful guests and all the people we collaborate with, because they're the ones that make the bleeding edge, not me. I'm just the idiot that gets to sit there and enjoy the success and have fun with the shows. But and got lucky. But either way, we're doing great. We're unfortunately we're reviewing Willow tonight. This evening I'm a little bit depressed about it. I won't lie. I'll be heavily drinking tonight during the show. While I moderate and drink at the same time. It'd be great. At least that should be entertaining, right? Yes. Usually is. I'm really trying to be very nice about Willow because Cyber likes it. So I'm watching out what I'm saying and whatnot and everything with the reviews. But we're also doing Andor. So thank God Andor is saving me from Willow. Although at the same time, Gerald, the contrast of reviewing Andor and Willow at the same time, oh man. This makes Willow even worse. But either way, on Sundays, folks, at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we're doing an MCU in Phase 5 and 6 live stream special series where we're basically previewing, breaking down, theorizing, discussing, just getting after it, bleeding edge style, everything Phase 5 and Phase 6. I don't even have a time limit on it. We might do it all the way through March. But do it till Secret of It. We might do it till What If Season 2. We'll have to see. But we're having a blast with it. And after Andor and, Willow, basically we got 2 episodes left. We're wide open. We're trying to decide what we want to cover next. So all I know is it'll be dope. We don't just do MCU. We're doing The Mandalorian. And thanks to everybody out there, that supports Gerald. And through extension, supports the MCU's bleeding edge through Gerald and me coming on here. And again, thank you very much, Gerald. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and whatnot. And I always love the chance to bullshit with you, and pardon my French, and break it down and discuss Marvel and the fandom stuff.
Sounds good, my friend. Always glad to have you here. Once again, it's Jeff Sloboda, the man of true knowledge. You got to go ahead and check him out today on MCU's Bleeding Edge, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube and all this major social media as well. Jeff, it's been great having you on with your thoughts and your predictions on what may happen this year in the MCU. I know you'll be stopping by, talking more MCU as it happens, seeing if our predictions and thoughts on the year 2023 will hold true. We'll find out, but I'm looking forward to some great Marvel Cinematic Universe watching right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos.